guys, welcome to another tutorial. Today we'll make our off shoulders pattern. I've already marked out my basic dimensions as extracted from the bodice pattern. If you've seen my video of the bodice pattern, you should be familiar with what I'm doing here. So I'll just go ahead to impute my neckline. For the back, I'm using 1 inch depth, and for the front, I'm using 4 inch width and 4 inch depth. So I'll just mark out these points. I hope you're having a good day. If you would like to see the detail of the bodice pattern drafting, the link will be in description. Usually we slant our shoulder by 1 inch, and that's what I'm doing at the moment. I've also measured the bust span. So these are the measurements we'll be working with for today's tutorial. We need our round shoulder measurement, which for today's tutorial is 42 inches. So we use that to create out the off shoulders. First, we need to measure 2.5 inches from the shoulder slant. This could be more or less depending on how you want your shoulders to fall. Now for our bust span, we'll be working with the apex, and we need to create our breast curves. So first, on our under bust, this is our under bust, this is the bust line, and this is the waistline. So I'm using this pattern for both front and back. This will serve as our back. This is our center front, and this is the center back. Alright, on the under bust, we measure 1/2 inch towards the center front and 1.5 towards the armhole. Then on the waistline, we'll apply 1/2 inch towards the center front and 1.25 towards the armhole. Because we want the under bust to curve in, we want some emphasis there. We want our bust to relax on the curves. That's why we've used 1.5 for the under bust. Now we need to derive the midpoint of our shoulder line. For here we have 3.5 inches, so we need to divide 3.5 by 2 to derive the midpoint. So we'll link that straight to the breast point. So that's been connected to the apex. We'll do same on our back pattern. I'll be doing both front and back at the same time, so we'll just make it really easy. So now, from the point we marked 2.5, we need to also determine the neck depth for the front. Usually we may want to work with 6 inches or less or more. It depends on what you want to achieve with this. So I've just used 6 inches as my neck depth. Then you connect that to your 2.5 inches you marked earlier. You can use this to form like a sweetheart shape at the front, or just a straight V. It depends on what you want. So once you've done that, you need to now measure the length of the sleeve you want to work with. So from the top of your shoulder downwards towards the armhole, you determine the length of the strap you want. So for this pattern, I'm using 2.5. This could be more or less, it depends on what you want to achieve. Then once you've marked that, remember we're working on both front and back of our pattern just to make it easier for us. So we've also marked our 2.5 on this point. Then we need to also bring it down and measure our 2.5 on the back pattern. So we'll link this up with straight line just to have an even distribution of the sleeve. Now, once this is done, we need to now measure the neck depth for the back pattern as well. So for the back, you could use 6 inches as well. It depends on what you want. There's no fixed figure you have to use for this. You just decide what you want to work with. Now, what we need to do here is to measure the distance from this center front to the armhole on this line we marked. When we measure the front one, then we'll measure the back one. Then when we add them together, whatever is left will be the width of our sleeve. Now, if I measure from this center front down to the armhole, I get 8 inches. Now, 8 inches times 2, because this is a quarter of our shoulder circumference. Now 8 plus 8 will be 16 inches. Then for the back as well, we need to measure. So for the back is 16 inches as well. So 16 plus 16 is 32 inches. Now the shoulder circumference we are working with is 43 inches. So we need to subtract 32 from 43 inches. What do we have? So 43 minus 32 is 11 inches. So this 11, we're going to divide it into 4 because we're working with a quarter of our shoulder circumference. So 11 divided by 4 is 2.75. Now that will be the width of our sleeve. So I'll measure from this point 2.75 and mark there. Then I'm going to add ½ inch or quarter of an inch for ease. So this is just for your arms to be flexible, just to move freely. That's just what it's for, and it's optional. You can leave it out if you want. So if I add that, I will have up to 3 inches. Now I'll apply same 3 inches at the bottom. Then I'll apply it to the back pattern as well, and to this side 3 inches. Once this is done, you've created the sleeves. Now, because we don't want the sleeves looking just straight like that, we need to just curve it upward a bit, just to have a little blend onto the shoulder. So we're curving that upward by ½ inch. So it's ½ inch at the top and ½ inch at the bottom. So we can add like ½ more inch ease at the bottom, just at the bottom sleeve. We want to be able to move freely when we wear our top. So that's why I've added all this ease at the bottom. Okay, so now we've created our sleeve, our off shoulders. Next thing we need to do now is just to close up our side seams, and that's it. So to close up the sides, we'll just apply our waist circumference. So our waist circumference is 34 inches. So if we divide 34 by 4, we'll have 8.5. So measure 8.5 on that point. 8.5. Then we need to bring on our darts. Then for the underbust, our underbust circumference is 32 inches. If you divide that by 4, it will give you 8 inches. Then we need to also measure our darts and apply that adequately. Then our bust is 38 inches. Divide by 4, that's 9.5. Then we close up that. Do same on the back pattern. Now, one final thing we need to do on this our yoke is to create like ½ inch on the right and ½ inch on the left. We'll just connect this to the bust line because we want it to shape up a little bit. If you check very well, our upper chest is usually smaller than the bust. So that's why I'm taking this off. So this 1 inch I took off. If you add all the 4/4 inches we added for the ease on the sleeves, it will still sum up to 1. So we are not short on this. So if you think you want to add more ease to these sleeves, you can just go ahead and add your 1/4 inch or so on the sleeve, just to have a little ease. But with this 1 inch I took off from here, there is no ease anymore, but you can go ahead to add the ease if you so wish, but it's not necessary. You mustn't do it, but it makes it relax firmly on your body. Okay, so that's just what I've done here. So with this 1 inch here, if you want to add the ease, what you simply need to do is to measure your 1/4 inch on the right and 1/4 inch on the left. Then you add same 1/4 on the bottom and on this side as well. Then you connect that. It's very easy. You can always modify this sleeve to suit what you want. You can keep modifying it until you get to the length and width you want. Another thing is, after measuring these sleeves and you wear them and discover that it's too big or too small, there's always time for you to make adjustments. What you can simply do, for example, if the armhole does not fit, you can move this sleeve further up. You can move it above where it is or move it below where it is. It all depends on you. What you just need to do is to measure, maybe just measure 1 inch above this point. Let's say you're bringing it further above where it is. You just measure 1 inch to the top like that. Then you measure same width. You apply same width, 3.5 at this point. Measure that, measure it. Then you move the sleeve upwards to the point you want. So that's just how to modify it. It's very easy. So what I need to do now is just to create my armhole on that point. Then I'll connect that to my bust line. Then I'll do same on the back pattern. So for my back pattern, I just need to measure my bust circumference, divide by 4. That's 9.5. There's no dart on that point, so I'll just carry it that way. I don't really need the under bust measurement because it's just for the back. Then for my waistline is 34 inches, divide by 4. That's 8.5. Then 1 inch for my dart allowance. And that's it. I'll connect that to this point. Then create our back armhole. It's very easy, very easy to make this pattern. So just connect that up. So first, before we cut this out, we'll just try to trace out our yoke, for in case we have a project we'll need the yoke for. the pattern, and this is it for the off shoulder top. So if it's going to be a tube top, this is what it will look like. But if you're making yoke, let me just mention that if you need to make yoke on your top, you will find out that the shoulder will not be up to where it should be, because you've taken out 1 inch from the upper chest. So what you need to do before you add your yoke is to, if you're making a sleeveless top, you definitely don't need your yoke to extend to the point where the armhole is. It comes out more beautiful when it's shorter a bit from the armhole. So what you need to do is to take off 1 inch from this yoke. So you just measure 1 inch from this yoke on that point. Then you're going to mark that straight to the bottom, like so. Okay, so if you have that, you cut that off, so that by the time you sew this and add this yoke, it will now blend and be equal to, as in it will now be equal. Then you can attach your sleeves. But if you're making like a full shoulders with sleeves, maybe you're doing something like a top that will have a shoulder and at the same time have an off shoulders, what you need to do is to extend a part of this sleeve will now become a part of your armhole. So what you need to do in that case is to measure 1 inch from this pattern. What that implies is that you need to add some more piece of your pattern, place this portion on it, then you measure 1 inch. You measure 1 inch and add to that, then connect that to that point, just stick it in place. Then you're going to be creating a new armhole for your top, like so. So this is what your new armhole will look like by the time you add your 1 inch to it. So you need to stick this in place. I hope this makes sense. So you just use a tape to stick that point. Then you cut. So this is just because of the 1 inch you took away for your upper chest. That's just why you need to modify this pattern if you're sewing with a yoke. So this will now become your new pattern. Let me just stick that in place so that you will understand. So this is the beauty of pattern drafting. You can modify it to suit anything you want to make. So that will be it. Then the sleeve still comes like so. Then you also need to modify the sleeves so that you get the actual length and width of sleeve. So it's very easy. This is just how to make a simple off shoulder top. You can modify this pattern in different ways, really. If you want back yoke, if you don't want a yoke at the back, just take this off. It becomes a tube top. So that's pretty easy. And also, if you want to make a full blouse with it, then you just need to also stick some pattern papers on the bottom. That's from the waistline to the full length. Then when you stick that, you just measure, you stick your pattern, then you measure the full length and add the top. Just stick it in place and it will be. So with this pattern, we're going to make a full blouse, and at the same time we'll make a gown with it, with this off shoulders pattern. So in the next video, we're going to make a blouse. I'll show you how you can extend this pattern. Just stick on the waistline to form your full blouse, and at the same time how you can add yoke to it to make your off shoulders. And we'll also make standing sleeves with this same pattern. It's going to be very easy, and I'll simplify it the much I can. I'll be very happy to answer any questions you may have or suggestions you may want to drop in the comments for me. Please pop them in and I will respond to them as quickly as I can. Thank you so much for watching today's video. Do subscribe to my channel if you've not done so already. Click the notification bell and click all notifications so that you get notified each time I post a new video. Thank you so much and do have a lovely day. I'll see you in the next video. Bye.